Okay, welcome back to my channel. This is part 2. We're going to pick up right where we left off at the end of the other video with discussing the Egyptian type artifacts that have been found in the Grand Canyon and are littered all across our great nation of America, as well as the mounds that are all across America and pyramids that have been found all across America. And let's not forget the giants, some of which had horns and a fifth cranial plate that caused a sloping in their head, right? An elongated slope. I do firmly believe that we are in a binary, trinary solar system and that Nemesis is coming back around very soon. It is going to create pole shifts and earth changes and hopefully catch us with our pants down, in their opinion, in the bad guys' opinion. I feel like they have a sinister plan to try to keep the awakening from happening in order to truly be able to enthrall us into the slavery that our ancestors have warned us about before, where when they come here, they want to take control and create slaves for their gold and their sex and their blood rituals and whatever else that others that are here on our planet are already preparing for and honoring, including, but not limited to, the elite and the top echelons of the political arenas of the entire globe have their own underground bunkers so that they can go beneath ground and be safe when this cataclysm comes. And they're hoarding the gold and they're hoarding whatever else they can and collecting as many bodies or members as they possibly can for their collection of things to offer to these quote unquote gods, rather than to learn who they truly are in their own power and that we don't have to be submissive to anyone. And I want to give you your power back so that we can prevent all of this from happening, because we are, in fact, much more powerful than we've ever been led to believe. And I have learned this through my experiences, through experiences of alien abduction, where at the age of 14, they were absolutely terrified of me when my thought power was activated within me, my anger. They needed to calm me. I've learned this through experiences with ghosts as a medium, that you can command them to leave, no matter how sinister and dark they are. And if just commanding them alone doesn't work, a banishing ritual from King Solomon certainly will. Guaranteed. But we do have dominion over this earth, over this plane, this dimension. It was our God-given right. It still is. We're just giving it up through bending our free will and allowing our free will to be bent for others and their mission. Now, if you will entertain me in entertaining you, I would like to show you some of the reasons why I feel like the giants and the Nephilim and the reptilians and the Anunnaki are all one. And also how I feel like these alleged Egyptian treasures littered all across the America, our North America, were actually, in fact, Atlanteans.
Ancient Egypt is famous for its vast riches and immense wealth. When King Tut's tomb was discovered in 1922, his coffin alone was made from solid gold and was worth over $13 million. Much of the treasure attributed to Egyptian pharaohs has yet to be found. So what I want to know is, could it be here in America? If it was hidden away on U.S. soil, some people think it's in the Grand Canyon. An old news article suggests Egyptian treasure was found here, and another treasure might be here too, the Ark of the Covenant. My search for the...
Now, you already know all about that from the other video and the Y files video that I shared on it. So we're going to jump forward just a bit. Because I want to be sure to cover everything in this second edition. Actually, that's not the part I want to show. Let me just, here we go. This is where we want to be. All right, so bear with me just a moment here while that loads. And I just want to reiterate that I think that the pyramids, all of the stone structures like Stonehenge and all of that, were actually aligned to Orion's belt and to the equinoxes and the solstices for the very main purpose of watching for our binary star system when it comes back around into our inner orbit. And later in this show, I'll pull up some video evidence and some notes and stuff of several different people's writings across history of this other planetary system that comes through every 3,600 years and the cataclysms that back up those stories. But real quick, I want you to listen to this.
A prohibited area at the Grand Canyon in Arizona. And now I'm examining replicas of possible Egyptian artifacts found in another cavernous hiding place here in southern Illinois. Legend says the original gold and the other carved pieces were taken from a cave here in the 1980s. But whether this is a true story or a tall tale remains to be seen. I've spent years trying to get to the truth myself. In 2010, I managed to get the only interview of Russell Burroughs ever known to be filmed, and I examined some of the artifacts he claimed he found. The varied collection ranged from a shaman and a cartouche carved in black marble to a white marble stone with the Greek goddess Isis on it. But after I questioned their authenticity, Russell refused to speak with me again. The key to the mysterious cave in Illinois here really centers on Russell Burroughs. I mean, he's the one that made the cave famous. That's why they call it Burroughs Cave.
He is the reason that a lot of people have become skeptical of the artifacts, because a lot of them have been tainted and forged.
You know, I felt it was important to give Russell an opportunity to say something about it, so I interviewed him back in 2010.
I'd like to see what he's got to say.
Well, in 1982, I was out working with my metal detector searching for an old home site. I was walking down the trail on the bluff, and I stepped on a rock which dropped me into a pit or a hole.
Okay, we're going to back up.
And lo and behold, behind it was a cave.
You see these chips on the backside?
Right.
My apologies for that. I thought we were a little closer to the information that I was wanting to share. And this is it right here.
This is the man who brought all the treasures over here from Egypt.
Oh, really?
Yes.
And who is this?
His name is Alexander Helios. He is the missing son of Cleopatra and Mark Antony.
Hello. Did you hear that?
Alexander Helios was an Egyptian prince whose famous parents, Antony and Cleopatra, committed suicide when a Roman emperor conquered Egypt.
Now, I just want to interject here for a moment, because I have always personally felt like Cleopatra was from a special lineage, not just Egyptian, but also Atlantean. She was quite creative and charmed people with her wisdom and her knowledge and her abilities. She was different than all of the other Cleopatras before her. She was actually Cleopatra the Seventh. And I believe that their son, Helios, was a mixture of Greek, Egyptian, and Atlantean.
Alexander Helios, as the eldest son, may have feared for his life and fled the country with the family fortune. At the time, Egypt had many sailing ships, so perhaps Helios came to what's now America to seek refuge, bringing his treasure with him. All right, so why did he come over here?
One of the stones clearly says we left the Mediterranean to escape persecution. And he's all over these artifacts, probably on about 500 of them. And it tells his life story here. After about age 10, he vanishes off of the face of history.
Okay.
But here we have him as an older man, as a younger man, in different costumes. He was a priest of the sun, and that was his name, Helios, which is Greek for the sun.
Okay, so you think he came here?
Yeah.
So let me also remind you that in the first video, I showed you a clip from the Y files where they were talking about the cave that was found in the Grand Canyon with all of the treasures and different things in the hieroglyphs and the strange cocooned mummies. Now, I believe that the hieroglyphs were never deciphered because they were actually Atlantean instead of Egyptian, which Helios would have been taught all three languages of his bloodline, because that is the way they did things in those days. Also, the Buddha that was found inside of the cave system represents the same principles as the Atlantean principles of peace and true harmony that comes from within through the body system, where you actually use your own harmonics as tuning forks for your body that then propel outward into your aura, your energy field, your chi, whatever you want to call that, to create and even levitate. And the Native Americans knew this as well. I also feel like all of the indigenous Native American peoples of the Americas are part of the bloodline of the Atlanteans.
Yes.
And when was this?
Probably about 25 BC.
Well, that's very interesting. And how many people do you think came with him?
According to the tablets, probably 50,000.
50,000 people. Well, that's pretty interesting, because when I was out at the cave in the Grand Canyon, they talked about it being big enough to house 50,000 people. And maybe the cave that you have here, that you think is here, maybe those people also went out to the Grand Canyon.
So what do you think of the theory that Alexander Helios came here to North America with all these treasures?
Well, it's interesting for a couple of reasons. One is Helios.
Okay, so anyway, you can finish watching this video if you want. And this last part of it here is where he actually goes out to Burroughs Cave and looks around. And that's pretty interesting too, if you would like to take a gander at that. But I want to move on ahead now, because let's think about the Grand Canyon and how it was formed. We know that it was formed from massive water erosion from the glacier melt, right? So what caused the glacier melt to happen? Well, Hapgood, well, I have two of these, but Hapgood wrote the theory on crustal displacement and proposed that the polar ice creates the mass imbalances that cause the crust to slip over the mantle, shifting the geographic location of the North Pole. But Einstein later argued that the force of the ice was not a sufficient enough weight to cause a crustal displacement. However, another binary star coming into our system, the inner solar system, would definitely do this, because it would have its own magnetic field that would pull at the Earth and possibly even cause it to stop its orbit temporarily, stop its wobble, stop its orbital rotation. The whole deal. So let me see if I can find my notes that I have on that. And I will share all of these links that I have in this little package here. Let's go to this one first. But I also just want to reiterate, while we're waiting for this page to load, that all of this knowledge about giants and aliens and Anunnaki and the likes, you know, the mounds, the pyramids that are all over the place, it was all to control us and our knowledge of who we are, not just who they are. I mean, let's think about it. We are already told that Moses was able to part the Red Sea. He used the staff that had the symbol of the snake as like his magic wand, if you will. But I think it was representation of him using his kundalini, his chi, to direct his energy. And that energy field that we all have, it comes from our cerebral fluid and our spinal fluid. That's scientific fact that it is there. Now, okay, let me just go over this with you. Billions of years ago, planets formed from debris circling the sun. Proto-Earth, aka Tiamat, achieved an orbit around the sun between Jupiter and Mars. All parts of the solar system kept moving in the original direction of the cloud, anti-clockwise. Planets orbit the sun in the same direction as the original nebula. So do the satellites and debris from the comets and the asteroids. Nibiru seems to move clockwise due to the parallax effect toward the sun, but seems to turn back counterclockwise toward Nemesis just beyond the Kuiper Belt. It actually moves clockwise viewed from beyond the inner solar system, for it co-formed with our sun, and so with it, it rotates counterclockwise. So basically, it looks like a corkscrew that would go, you know, it would spiral up and out and then come back down and funnel in. Nibiru revolves around a planet that in turn revolves around Nemesis, which is a dark subdwarf star more massive than Jupiter that nowadays gets near as the Kuiper Belt, which is 48 astronomical units from Earth, every 10,800 Earth years. For much of our history, Nibiru has circled the planet every 3,600 years and could be seen between Mars and Jupiter. One of Nibiru's years lasted long enough for 180 generations of Homo sapiens to live and die. Okay, now in my calculations of what I have looked at for how long it takes for Nibiru to completely pass us by, it is at least 100 years before it's completely gone out of our inner solar system. Now, I don't know if that's accurate or not. That's just according to the data that I can find. And there's not a lot of data on that, I will admit. For all I know, it could be 1 year and it's done. But it's not going to be like an overnight thing, folks. Just like using your powers and your abilities within you to heal things and change things in your life, it's not a magic wand. You're not going to change it overnight. It's a process. And this passing through is also a process. But it is a magnetic body. So we have to keep that in mind. If it can affect the perturbation, the perturbing of the outer planets that are very large, much larger than us, Neptune and Saturn and Uranus. I mean, clearly it's going to affect our planet. Clearly it's going to cause havoc on our planet if our shields go down. Okay, and that's the key. The shields going down around the planet is the key. The lessons that I can teach you the energy lines that belong to the entire planet. And you don't have to go there physically, because I'm also going to teach you how to remote view and sense through an energy field to find them. It's like having energy radar for our planet. You'll be able, or sonar, however you want to look at that. ground penetrating radar, right? But we have that technology built into us. We can use that to help keep our shields up on our planet. For anyone that's interested in taking those lessons and learning to do that and helping to assist. So they hide this knowledge from us because we are much more powerful than we've ever been allowed to think that we are. Every single time the esoteric and Gnostic wisdoms started to creep back up and come to the light of day, they would stuff it down and bury it as something heinous or evil or bad. Think about the way that they punished the witches during the Salem witch trials and claimed them as evil, when really the majority of them, by the way, were women, and women are more intuitive naturally. And there was lots of paranormal activity going on around these women, healing, natural spontaneous healings and such. And they deemed them witches and made it bad, you know, for fear from the unknown and also control. They don't want us to know who we are. And that's a damn shame, in my opinion. On so many levels, that's a damn shame. Because Jesus said, you can go forth and do the same great works he did and more. And he wasn't kidding. And neither am I. Okay, so moving on. Billions of years ago, blah, 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 blah. We did all that part, yada, yada. 200 million years ago, evil wind, one of Nibiru's moons, struck Tiamat. Then Nibiru itself hit Tiamat and gouged a huge gap in it, creating the Pacific Basin, yada, yada. We all know this story. If you don't, you're welcome to read through all of this. The orbit is 3,600 years, but in 10,900 BC, Uranus drifted away from the sun and sped Nibiru toward Earth sooner than the 3,600 years. I don't know that that's true. I think we've just got our long count wrong on our calendars because they went from moon calendars to sun calendars. Yada, yada, blah, blah, blah. Nibiru stabilized into its orbit. It returns on a perigee in 7450, 4000, and 556 BC, and next returns to the inner solar system around 2900 AD from their assumptions. And I don't think that's correct at all, because I think we're fixing to see it, folks. I think we're already seeing evidence of them out there now. You can see more than one planetary celestial body out there in the skies at this very moment. I have my own photographs of it. Look, I'm a cartoon over there again, if you can even see me. Okay, let's go through this. 20 things that you should know about Nibiru. So Zachariah Sitchin described Nibiru according to the Sumerian cosmology as a 12th planet, though it is not just a 12th planet. It's an entire solar system. Nibiru is home to an alien race called the Anunnaki, which is an extreme advanced extraterrestrial civilization. Researchers have talked about the possibility of a giant planet that has an extreme strange orbit around the sun. There's a diagram. Okay, so the name Nibiru originated from the ancient Sumerians who once inhabited ancient Mesopotamia. However, I will mention that Mesopotamia is not the only civilization that talked about Nibiru, because there was also, where are my notes? Babylonian, Assyrian, Sumerian, and Mesopotamian that all spoke of the Anunnaki and Nibiru. Okay, that's 4 different civilizations just in that area over there alone. Plus, you know, we've got places on the other continents of the world. Okay, so according to several ancient texts from Mesopotamia, There's strong evidence that supports the theory that Nibiru has an orbital period of 3,600 years. The number 3,600 was represented by the Sumerians as a large circle. The expression for the planet, the share, also means a perfect circle or full circle and represents the number. Ancient astronaut theorists believe that the convergence of the three concepts, planet, orbit, and number, 3,600, could not possibly be a coincidence. Strangely, the periods of the kingdom were also multiples of share, which are 3,600 years, leading to the speculation that the empire's shares were related to the orbital period of the 3,600 years, which they are indeed. And it's our time to shine, folks. NASA has identified a planet with an anomalous orbit around our sun. They refer to it as Planet X. The Washington Post and other news agencies wrote about it as early as 1983, again in 1994, 2003, and in 2012 was the last time they spoke of it. According to the Washington Post, a heavenly body possibly as large as the giant planet Jupiter and possibly so close to Earth that it would be part of this solar system has been found in the direction of the constellation Orion by an orbiting telescope aboard the U.S. infrared astronomical satellite. Hello, that is the iris that I had told you about in a few videos ago. That they never would really tell us much of what they found other than the fact that they found this giant, it had to have been a dwarf star, not a planet, because they were looking in infrared for it. They were looking for a heat signature with no light, no exterior light. So, all I can tell you is that we don't know what it is, quote unquote, by the chief iris scientist. That's because they're not supposed to tell you what it is. They know exactly what it is. R. Harrington wrote a very interesting article in the Astronomical Journal in 1988. Harrington suggested that a planet 3 or 4 times the size of Earth existed, having a position of 3 or 4 times further from the sun than Pluto. According to the mathematical models that were presented, it is believed that Planet X, or Nibiru, has an extremely elliptical orbit of 30 degrees. It is believed that the planet originated from the Orion constellation, passing near our planet and coming toward it from the sun, excuse me, after making its way by Earth, it heads toward the outer solar system again and quote unquote disappears for a good long period of time. But it's more than one thing. There's a whole solar system of planets and moons and satellites and comets and asteroids and meteors and everything with it that's coming with it, ahead of it, behind it. I mean, it's an entire little solar system. Mythologically speaking, it has the appearance of a fiery beast appearing in the sky like a second sun. Nibiru is a magnetic planet, causing the Earth to tilt in space as it passes. This is what can cause crustal displacement, ladies and gentlemen. Nibiru is believed to have 4 times the diameter of Earth and 23 times the mass, a truly gigantic planet. According to ancient texts, Nibiru is wrapped in a cloud of dust iron oxide red, making the rivers and lakes acquire a reddish color. It also is what causes it to appear to glow red, hence the term that the Hopi call it, which is the red star Kachina. The blue star Kachina will be the planet that comes in front of it to be the harbinger. It is also called the harbinger and will be the warning sign, the telltale sign that impending danger is upon us. It is believed that it would cause days of obscurity while passing next to the other planets, possibly even stopping their rotation during its transition across space due to its incredible magnetic properties. Now, I again have already told you in another video that as it went past Uranus and Saturn and Neptune, it did in fact make their rotational orbit stop. It changed their axis and their poles flipped. Saturn is even now orbiting backwards instead of in the direction it was originally, or rotating and orbiting. It's actually going counter to that position now. And its poles have flipped. These are scientific facts, guys. I'm not making it up. They also, every one of those planets also heated up the closer it got to them and past them. Because of the magnetic energy, it creates the heat. Not to mention, it's a dwarf planet, a dwarf star. And so it has its own solar flare energy to it and intensity of heat, even if it doesn't have its own light. Nibiru is also associated with great dangers. Some researchers believe the planet like Nibiru would come close to the Earth. It would cause large earthquakes, tsunamis, volcanic eruptions, creating an entirely new geography and climate. It is called the Destroyer in the Colburn Bible, which is a parallel Bible located in the monastery of Glastonbury in Scotland. Men forget the days of the Destroyer. Only the wise know where it went and that it shall return at the appointed time. It is the Destroyer. Its color was bright and fierce and ever-changing, with an unstable appearance, a fierce body of flames that made it look like it had wings. According to the U.S. News World Report, Planet X or Nibiru does in fact exist. The article reads, shrouded from the sun's light, mysteriously tugging at the orbits of Uranus and Neptune, is an unseen force that astronomers suspect may be Planet X, a 10th resident of the Earth's celestial neighborhood, because they'd rather tell you it's a 10th planet than to tell you it's a dwarf star with its own damn planets. That's much more scary. Last year, the infrared astronomical satellite, aka IRIS, circling in a polar orbit 560 miles from Earth, detected heat from an object about 50 billion miles away that is now the subject of intense speculation. According to an article published in Newsweek on July 13th of 1987, NASA disclosed that there might be a 10th planet orbiting our sun. According to NASA research scientist John Anderson, Planet X might actually be out there, but nowhere near our planet. The article from Newsweek states, if he is right, two of the most intriguing puzzles of space science may have been solved. What causes the mysterious irregularities in the orbits of Uranus and Neptune during our 19th century, and what killed off the dinosaurs 26 million years ago. It also explains Noah's flood, Atlantis sinking, Krakatoa erupting and creating great havoc across the globe, and so on and so forth. On October 23rd of 1996, an article from the AP called New Rebel Planet Found Outside the Solar System states the following. A new planet that breaks all the rules about how and where planets form has been identified in orbit of a twin star about 70 light years from Earth in a constellation commonly known as the Northern Cross. The new planet has a roller coaster-like orbit that swoops down close to its central star and then swings far out into frigid fringes, following a strange egg-shaped orbit that is unlike any they had ever known a planet to do before. This is exactly what happens in our own solar system. Okay. I don't want that. Where do I want to go next? All right, let's look here for a moment too, because I told you I would show you that it is all connected. So the Vatican has an observatory in Arizona that is named Lucifer. They've recently nicknamed it Lucy for short. But it is, in fact, an infrared telescope that is specifically looking for, okay, that's not true, because yes, they do. Where is the one I wanted to take you to? Here we go. It is a near-infrared spectroscopic utility with camera and integral field unit for extragalactic research. It is looking in the near-infrared field for a binary star in our solar system, okay? And the Vatican knows about it because the Pope and the Queen and all of them are the top echelons that are hiding the damn secrets. I mean, everybody knows all of the stuff that's hiding in the basement at the Vatican. That's no big secret anymore. That's about as big of a secret as Area 51. But they have a real stake in the matter of keeping this under wraps. And the key word here is control, folks. Because if you know, number one, if you just know about this stuff and you don't know about you, then they'd lose control of you because you're going to go start raving mad or start panicking and quit your job and start packing your bug out bags and becoming preppers, you know, at best. But if you do know exactly who you are, then that's a real lose-lose for them, because not only do they lose control of you and it's with no hope to regain it, because you will have your power and your authority, as you should. Okay, here's some more proof, actually. We want to look at that. More proof that Nibiru exists. So this says, the controversial planet X has been secretly filmed from astronomical observatories and is making its way toward Earth. This has been claimed from people who work in the secret projects. So Christian conspiracy theorists, David Mead, who claims the alleged giant planet Nibiru is which is officially unknown to astronomical science, will pass the Earth, causing a global apocalypse in October. I don't know what that's about. Says he's been shown the secret footage which proves that it exists. And I have no doubt. How do I close this little bugger? Oh, right there. I have no doubt that he has seen this. He claims he had spoken to a professor of astronomy in Paris, based at a large observatory, who told him that Nibiru was real. He says, I asked, is it real? And he said, oh, yes. And that makes it all true right there, right? No, I'm teasing. He goes on to say, I've seen it. And he told me the name of the observatory he has seen it at. And he said he had a secret film of it, which he later sent to me. He had taken it with his phone, and it is an actual photo of the system. He got out of the observatory at a very high level, and he has shared it with me since. I have not shared it with the public, but I have seen it. He said a fellow conspiracy theorist has also shared a news snap with him. Mr. Mead added that a colleague of mine recently sent me photos which make it appear Planet X is currently right over the North Pole. He was sent a photograph by an individual who was flying out over the state of Utah and saw it. Says it happened 20 to 25,000 feet above sea level. You really need to be that high to get a good picture of Planet X and its system. See, he's calling it a whole system. So he must know something, because it is a whole system. It's not just one planet, if that wouldn't be bad enough, right? He says, it is one of the best photos I have seen of the Planet X system. It is not a lens flare. It was taken through an aircraft plexiglass window and is right on spot. So the sightings are increasing, in my opinion, which they are. He said the professor in Paris had sent him a minute and a half of video of the Planet X system, but he had never shared it with the public. He was asked by show host Michael Vera, why not? Because people would want to see it before it goes boom. Mr. Mead replied, I'm thinking about it. I don't have green light yet. I will think about it. It is a wonderful video taken from an observatory managed by 3 major superpowers taken at night. I think he's afraid, honestly, guys. I mean, you can be naysayers all you want, but these people are serious. They don't play when it comes to stuff like that. And if you don't know your power and know how to protect yourself, they can bring you some crazy shit. Says you can see the moon and you can see the Nibiru system. It is very clear, but no one knows he has got it, and I don't want to put him in danger. It looks absolutely authentic. Okay. So let's see what this is. Somehow I ended up back on my other YouTube channel sign in. So
At GIA, we grade some of the rarest, most precious diamonds in the world,
apologies for the ad.
including
And
yours.
I need to find
We're
that one thing that
confident
shows
you're
all of
choosing the
the
best with a diamond
mapping
graded by GIA.
starts to form a diamond shape. Need to figure out where that is.
Sales teams have it tough.
Another ad.
PandaDoc is here to make things easy.
And of course,
Create,
now-
share, and approve documents in minutes.
How the hell is
Get
that?
real-time reporting, easy integrations too. Automate proposals and speed up your deals with PandaDoc.
Says I have 21 items in here. Let's see. It's not that. I have like a lot of duplicates instead of all of my stuff that I saved. Huh, that's interesting. Okay. Well, this is taking a dick year to load. Come on. Come on. Load it up. Let me close these out. Maybe that'll help. Save on resources. All right, well, that's taking too long. We're just gonna go this one. All right, that was taking too long. And I think I actually had me muted and I didn't realize it. My bad. All right. Nope, we already went through that one. So this one. Oh, this is the one that talks about Nancy Leader and the Zeta Reticuli star system and all of that. Which, you know, I don't care either way. How you believe on her, that's a whole different topic for me. Has nothing to do with what I'm trying to do right now. Let me get back in my, I don't know how it keeps sending me out of the other All right. Where the hell did that go? Okay, so I had to pause that a minute, find my stuff, and my computer and everything is still really glitching out, crazy out. Oh. But anyway, I want to cover this, the Carrington event, um, the original Carrington event that actually happened, and then FEMA's Carrington event plan that they have in place, which goes right along and parallels with the elite's underground bunkers, the rich and famous who have the underground bunkers, the political people who all have very large underground bunkers. And then we also have the FEMA camps for people like you and me so that they can, you know, under the guise of protecting us, round us up and put us into these concentration camps where they can keep us nice and tidy and keep track of what we're doing rather than those rogue people who may be off thinking for themselves. Because God forbid anybody do that, right?
On the night of the 28th of August, 1859, skies around the world lit up with spectacular displays of light. In some places, the heavens glowed red, as though reflecting a massive wildfire. Elsewhere, broad bands of white light were seen dancing across the night sky. For almost a week, skies around the world glowed so brightly that it was possible to read a newspaper at midnight. Everywhere, people gathered and gazed upwards, terrified and awestruck in equal measure. The vast majority had no idea what they were witnessing, and could only assume that it was a portent of the end of the world.
Now, let me just say, this happened in like 1859 or something like that, and that 100-year travel for this binary system to get out of our inner solar system, I personally feel like has something to do with this Carrington event, where actually when it was originally inbound, the Carrington event happened, and now it's coming around behind the solar, the southern side of the sun and back up, and will make its second pass, because it's going to have to make 2 passes, right, to do its orbit. So I think it's already done its first pass when the Carrington event happened. It was just further out on that end. Once it goes past the sun slingshots it and sends its direct trajectory more in our direction, closer to us, which I think then is when the bigger events happen.
Reports exist from many different countries of the strange phenomena that could be seen during the week which followed the 28th of August, 1859. In Boston, the sky glowed red to such a degree that many who witnessed it believed that there was a fire burning over the horizon, at least until the red transmuted to a vivid green. Elsewhere, witnesses reported seeing columns of light moving across the sky, and spoke of multicoloured rays and arches forming, coalescing and disintegrating. One account in the San Francisco Herald ran as follows. The whole sky appeared to undulate, something like a field of grain in a high wind.
This is solar wind activity, guys. Solar wind activity that is going to happen due to the binary star and our star warring with each other. It's going to create massive solar activity in the sky. And by the way, I have 7 children. My third born child, my bad, had a vision when she was 17, 18 years old, before she really knew a whole lot about this, where she said that she didn't know what was going on, but there was a lot of brush fires and earthquakes and volcanoes and things like that. And she said that the clouds in the sky glowed neon colors that she couldn't understand. She couldn't comprehend what she was seeing in the dream. She said, Mom, it was like I was looking at the aurora borealis, but it was everywhere worldwide, and she couldn't understand it.
The waters of the bay reflected the brilliant hues of the aurora. Nothing could exceed the grandeur and beauty of the sight. The effect was almost bewildering, and was witnessed with mingled feelings of awe and delight by thousands. Such was the brightness of these lights that many people rose from their beds, thinking that dawn had arrived. A group of masons in South Carolina got up and started work on a job site before realizing that it was still the middle of the night and going back home. In Virginia, a railroad conductor, angered by the sound of larks singing as though it was morning, when in fact it was only just 1 a.m, got out his pistol and shot 3 birds dead so that he could get back to sleep. At the same time, in Ohio, the sight of the night sky illuminated like a Christmas tree proved too much for one 16-year-old girl. Over the course of the week-long event, she became increasingly agitated, believing that the strange lights heralded the end of the world. She was ultimately committed to an insane asylum. At the same time as the Heavenly Light Show was sending the general population into a frenzy of fear and wonder, telegraph operators around the world were also experiencing bizarre and unexpected difficulties. Something was wrong with their equipment. In some places, telegraph operators received electric shocks and burns when they touched their telegraph keys, or witnessed sparks and arcing from telegraph wires.
This is huge magnetic fields that are going on at this time, right? In that moment, huge magnetic fields are going on. Pole shift type stuff. Pole shift level events almost took place during the Carrington event. The Ohio River actually ran backwards from south to north instead of north to south during this event. And I don't know for sure that they tell it in this because I have not watched this particular piece of film yet. But I do know for a fact from research of the actual Carrington event that eventually the telegram poles and lines and stuff were burst into flames, bridges burned, and all of that happened. And then the river ran backwards for I forget how long. So I really do hope they tell it in this video. And my premise on this is that that was the inbound first pass, and our next pass coming will create a pole shift, and we are seeing all of the telltale signs of that now in many different avenues, many different arenas of planetary changes and celestial changes in our sky. So please, please, please take this seriously.
Elsewhere, operators.
This has been taken seriously enough that FEMA and every military, not in just our country, but the entire world, has preparations in place for us and them for when, not if, when this happens in our lifetime.
Has discovered, much to their surprise, that they could unhook their batteries and still continue to transmit messages. Operators on the
This too, I'm going to interrupt this once more again to remind you of Einstein's summation of us traveling into the dark rift of the Milky Way, which we are now currently in, while all this other cyclical stuff is taking place, which is the force awakening that happens within us, where our right and left hemispheres will force merge from the magnetic changes, and it will make us more naturally psychic. It will like amplify that to where the telepathy is easy to transmute back and forth between us because we are magnetic as well. We are all walking, living, breathing biological batteries.
American telegraph line between Boston and Portland, after briefly marvelling that they could work without batteries, went about their business sending the messages of the day as normal, batteries disconnected. Newspapers during the week of the event were dominated by accounts of the lights in the sky and the disruption of the telegraph system. In some cases, this was all that could be printed, since interruption of telegraph services meant that no news dispatches from the wider world had come in. All in all, these events defied explanation, leaving many to speculate that they were signs of the coming apocalypse. The actual explanation was rather less catastrophic, and would be uncovered by the report of a British amateur astronomer, Richard Carrington. On the 1st of September 1859, he was in his private observatory on his estate just outside London, busily monitoring sunspots. Sunspots are dark patches often seen on the surface of the sun, and Carrington had devoted a great deal of time to tracking their movements, as he believed that their importance was only just beginning to be understood. While he was busy with his work, Carrington witnessed something unusual. Two patches of intense white light appeared on the surface of the sun. Intrigued, Carrington made a drawing to capture his observations, something he would later send to the Royal Astronomical Society as part of a complete report. Although he didn't know it at the time, Carrington had just witnessed two in a series of solar flares. Solar flares are violent events on the surface of the sun, which are almost always accompanied by the ejection of a huge quantity of energetic particles. For Carrington's report allowed...
I'll skip ahead a little bit, but these solar flares would be more intense if the binary star is out there near it, because again, they're going to be like exchanging fire, basically.
The flares and the bizarre activity in the skies to be linked. When they finally were, it was decided that the event should be named in his honour, the Carrington event. Carrington would have every reason to be pleased to be remembered in such a way. After all, the Carrington event made headlines around the world, and while it caused some disruption, it was far from deadly. At the time, it must have seemed a bizarre but momentous scientific discovery.
Okay, well, this isn't that impressive because he's not really telling all of what happened. Maybe he will right here. We'll see what this has to say.
Electrical power. Since then, much more of the world's infrastructure has come to be dependent on electricity. Which begs the question, what would happen should a Carrington-level event occur today? Unlike in 1859, it's...
Okay, now I'm going to skip that. It'll be in the description box if you want to watch the rest of it. I want to move right on along here. While we're waiting for this to load, I would like to also just remind all of you about the stories about antiquity that tell us about the warring brothers, or the stories of the son and the father fighting with each other. All of these, and then all of our celestial bodies are named after these supposed gods as well, you know, so they were all trying to tell us something in their own way, and it's that our binary star and our main star are going to have this war exchange that's going, all of us are going to feel the fallouts of it. If at this time we don't actually learn who we are and that we can do something about this. And I know there's a lot of people that hear me say that and they're just like, whatever, if this kind of thing is coming at us, there's not a damn thing we can do about it. But yes, there is. And as we go through the next few months, I'm going to be showing you more and more evidence for how we really can do something about this, like the science behind it.
Step pyramids were the favorite architectural forms of these ancient builders. It seems apparent that they were created by the same advanced civilization. However, these temples are in totally different parts of the planet. This Chichen Itza complex is located in Mexico, the Pyramid of Djoser is in Egypt, and the Ko-Kur Sanctuary was discovered in Cambodia. Textbooks will tell you that all these very similar step pyramids were built by different primitive societies independently of one another. But the weirdest thing is that these almost identical structures are separated by hundreds or even thousands of years and a distance of half the world. And if we assume that they were really created by representatives of the same ancient advanced civilization who could easily cross the oceans, that's the development level close to the 20th century. Scientists have found even too many suspicious buildings, the appearance of which they can't fully explain, or don't even try. In the U.S. state of Ohio, there's such a strange human-made hill. It's called the Great Serpent Mound. Experts are still arguing about the age of the complex stretching for 440 meters. The generally accepted version states that the snake-shaped mound was built by representatives of the Fort Ancient culture around the year 1000 CE. Allegedly, there was just no one else who could do it. However, this version hasn't convinced everyone. British journalist Graham Hancock doubted such conclusions and decided to conduct an alternative study. Not far from the Serpent Mound, he came across a whole complex of ancient burials related to the Adena culture, which is 1,500 years older than Fort Ancient. But the most incredible thing is that the Serpent Mound apparently rests on the ridge of an ancient meteorite impact crater. The tested samples showed that this collision occurred no earlier than 125,000 years ago, leaving behind a powerful magnetic anomaly. Compass needles literally go wild in this area. Surveyors were able to accurately determine the cardinal points on the Serpent Mound only 100 years ago, while ancient people did it a couple of thousand years earlier without special equipment. They managed to do even more. The head of the serpent aligns with the summer solstice sunset, and the curves of the mound serve as an astronomical calendar. And according to the conventional version, all this was built by people who could only build huts and sharpen spears for hunting. But what if this primitive society just occupied the more ancient complex built by someone else much earlier? Especially considering the fact that in another corner of the world, we found traces of an unknown ancient civilization with extraordinary construction skills. Scientists initially paid little attention to the half-ruined Göbekli Tepe temple complex in Turkey. The first studies showed that it was built only about 2,000 years ago. Göbekli Tepe would have remained interesting only to specialists if they hadn't discovered at least 16 more ancient underground halls during the final excavations. Hence, the total area of the complex could reach about 20 square kilometers, and that's only what we've managed to find. That's almost like half of Manhattan. The examination showed that the oldest of the halls date back to the 10th millennium BC. And that's even before the emergence of any modern civilization. Scientists believe that in those times, hunter-gatherers still flourished on Earth. What could make them suddenly unite to build the monumental Göbekli Tepe? Science has no clear explanation for that. There's no way our ancestors could receive the group text that ushered in a new era for humankind. Moreover, Giulio Magli, a professor at the Polytechnic University of Milan, discovered that Göbekli Tepe was not a temple, but a real observatory. That's because the middle lines between the central monoliths of the complex coincide with the azimuths of Sirius during the summer solstice. These unknown ancient people knew a lot about not only the technology of construction, but also astronomy. Then what could prevent them from traveling around the world? Ancient maps.
And what was encouraging them all? Worldwide, what was encouraging them to watch the skies? What were they so afraid of that they would go to great lengths to build these type of observatories?
Testify in favor of the version of an advanced ancient civilization that was actively exploring the globe. On the map of 1513, we can see Antarctica, but how did it get there if our seafarers discovered the fifth continent only 300 years later? The ancient map has some more mysteries. For example, the coastline of Antarctica, now hidden by the ice, is depicted with remarkable accuracy, as if someone knew what the continent looked like in the distant past. Modern science managed to study such details only in the 60s of the 20th century. But who could possibly beat us by hundreds or even thousands of years? Could it be the builders of a giant pyramid on Antarctica's surface? This is a fragment of a satellite image of the Ellsworth Mountains taken in 2016. Are these the remnants of the Antarctic metropolis of an ancient advanced civilization? The creator of the mysterious map, sailor Piri Reis, claimed that he had copied his sample from a very ancient document from the already destroyed Library of Alexandria. And by the way, this is in the vicinity of the Great Pyramids of Giza. What if the ancient builders left detailed instructions for the descendants, which were subsequently lost? But there's more to come. The outlines of 16th century South America, still poorly studied back then, are also strikingly accurate on the same map. Mountains, rivers, and some lakes are even marked on the continent itself. That is, in ancient times, someone not only saw this piece of land from the sea, but also managed to get deep into the continent. However, on the map of Piri Reis, there are inconsistencies even with our current knowledge of the world. On it, South America is connected to Antarctica by a small isthmus. But wait, could it be that tens of thousands of years ago, in the days of an unknown ancient civilization, these continents were really connected? After all, in South America, we've also discovered many pyramids, and we keep finding new ones to this day. Quite recently, researchers scoured the area surrounding a village in southern Bolivia using...
And I'm just going to interrupt here for a minute because I want to ask, as this goes through, to please pay attention that all of these red lines that they're drawing to connect these different places on the map form the shape of a diamond. And that's important.
LiDAR scanners, and all of a sudden, under the jungle cover, they discovered a complex network of canals and the remains of several stone pyramids. Archaeologists found out that they belonged to the previously unknown Kasarabe culture, 1,000 years older than the Aztecs and Incas. It seems as if someone specifically taught Native Americans complex architectural skills, and then they were adopted by later civilizations. However, geologists strongly dispute this theory about the pyramids in Antarctica. In their opinion, this is not the result of human activities, but of a very specific erosion, as in the case of the famous Alpine Matterhorn mountain. But the debunking of only one pyramid does not change the fact that there are many ancient human-made monuments scattered around the world, and they're all suspiciously similar. Now, the ruins of the Gunung Padang Temple on one of the Indonesian islands no longer look so impressive. But in ancient times, it was a pyramid. Like the Great Serpent Mound, it also sits within an ancient crater. Scientists believe that the complex should be no older than 9,000 years. However, a recent radiocarbon analysis has shown that Gunung Padang's lower boundary date could push back the estimated date of construction by another 20,000 years. Scientists retort that back then, Earth experienced the most severe phase of the last glacial period. That's why people were clearly not up to creating enormous memorial complexes. But aren't we missing something important? trying to fit Gunung Padang into our conventional history, the Ice Age is not as scary for an advanced civilization as it is for hunter-gatherers. These people could continue to travel the world constructing their pyramids. After all, they were found not only in Egypt, but in all corners of the world. This is the Prasat Bakse Cham Krong Temple in Cambodia, and here's the Monte Dakoti Sanctuary in northwest Sardinia.
I'll just interrupt again to ask you, do you consider us to be intelligent civilizations of the world in modern day? Because I say yes. And if you want to stand in your full power of being an intelligent civilization, that means that you know who you are so that you can get through this without dependencies on secondary technologies and gadgets that were all made from reverse engineering us and tapping into the natural energies of us and our planet.
Italy. And all these buildings have striking similarities. The boulders of the construction in Argolis, Greece are joined so tightly that even a human hair can't squeeze through the joints. And all this is done without any fastening solutions. Near the city of Cusco in Peru, walls with similar masonry were found, even though these regions are separated by over 11,000 kilometers and the Atlantic Ocean. Moreover, if we look at pyramid monuments in Egypt, Japan, and even on Easter Island, we'll see the same story. Even the sculptures of these complexes have something in common. Compare artifacts from Bolivia, Turkey, Indonesia, and Easter Island, which can't possibly be reached without a well-developed fleet. Is it entirely accidental that the ancient Aztecs had a legend about a god named Quetzalcoatl, who allegedly came from across the sea in a boat that moved by itself without paddles? According to legends, it was Quetzalcoatl who taught people unprecedented skills, including the construction of pyramids. But here comes another strange coincidence. This image of superhumans passing on their knowledge is found not only in Aztec culture. The ancient inhabitants of Mexico fixed this event into stone by depicting a person granting gifts of divine knowledge. It looks like an ordinary modern bag, doesn't it? But similar scenes of knowledge transmission by ancient sages are found all over the planet. They're discovered in the most hidden parts of Göbekli Tepe, on the walls of the preserved Assyrian temples, and even in Sumerian arts and crafts. But if we assume that representatives of an ancient civilization could easily cross the oceans and bestow knowledge on primitive people, this would mean that their level of development was close to our 20th centuries. Could such a society disappear almost without a trace? In a recent article in Scientific Reports, American scientists announced the results of long-term excavations near the town of Tel El Hammam in Jordan. A 1.5-meter soil layer entirely consisting of burnt organic matter, ash, and bone fragments suddenly turned out to be the site of an ancient space disaster. Around 1650 BC, this settlement was instantly destroyed by an explosion of a previously unknown meteorite. Scientists scrambled to find at least some mention of such a cataclysm, but they found only biblical legends about the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah literally by fire from the sky. So I guess myths are sometimes not really fiction. And although such a disaster wouldn't have been enough to wipe out an entire civilization, there is an ancient legend about a global catastrophe, which may also prove to have some grounds. The myth of the Great Flood can be found not only in the Bible, but also in the tales of the indigenous peoples of America, and even in the legends of Australian Aborigines. The ancient Finns even associated this event with the end of the world. If the flood was really so global, even an advanced ancient civilization would be in trouble. And some data indicate that approximately 13 to 15,000 years ago, our Earth experienced the so-called Cataclysmic period. It's like all the storms on our planet were raging simultaneously. But what could have caused it?
What could have caused it? What do I talk about? that when this binary star and its planetary system comes in close enough to us, it's going to start creating wildfires, earthquakes, volcanoes, hurricanes, tsunamis, supercell tornadoes, the whole freaking works. And then, yes, a pole shift.
So
you can track this through history, guys. You can check our ice core samples. You can check our tree breathing samples. They will all show you the same data, that something worldwide cataclysmic happened all at once, simultaneously, like a whole collusion of storms.
soil samples of that period contain numerous nanodiamond deposits. These are microscopic crystals that are formed as a result
Nanodiamond composites, diamond sediment. Okay, and the irony here, again, common theme for the week, ironic, is that the map that he's laying out before your eyes is making the shape of a diamond.
of the powerful impacts of comets or asteroids. But if the flood was caused by the impact, where's the vortex? Richard Firestone, an analytical chemist at the Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory in California, found that most nanodiamonds are found in soil samples from North America. But back then, the entire territory of modern Canada was covered with a thick ice crust. And if the comet hit it, the instantaneous melting of a tremendous amount of ice could create a devastating wave and, as a result, cause a global flood. However, it's not a sure fact that it could destroy an entire civilization at once. The few survivors could theoretically settle in different parts of the planet to try to revive the former greatness and, at the same time, transfer fragments of their knowledge to other, more primitive civilizations. It's amazing, but judging by the dating, the survivors of the secret apocalypse could be the ones who built Göbekli Tepe. In the meantime, the rest of humanity was hunting and gathering, as they already had the necessary technology and knew how to cooperate well. But if such a monumental building was erected by people exhausted by disasters, what were they really capable of at the peak of their glory? And if they possessed high technology, why didn't we find it? Although we consider ourselves a rather advanced civilization, which certainly left its bright mark on the planet's history, in reality, we can greatly overestimate ourselves.
So that was the damnedest thing. It literally just dropped me out of Zoom altogether. And when it brought me back, it was already recording again. So I'm going to do the share screen and try to finish this. That was so weird. All right, let's see if I can make this work.
If our civilization disappears right now, in 200 years, there won't be any traces of human-cultivated plants left on the planet. In 10,000 years, cities will almost completely disappear, except for the remaining large stones randomly scattered around the globe. And we've just found something similar. The Bimini Underwater Road near the Bahamas is referred to as the Road to Atlantis. It consists of 700 meters of neatly laid out limestone blocks. The true origin of the structure is still disputed. There's no single plausible explanation among scientists. But where could this enormous road lead? Could it be that in earlier times, before the Great Flood, the ocean level was significantly lower, and the ancient civilization surrounded almost the entire planet with such highways? That doesn't sound crazy at all, given that it would be easy to get to most other continents from Antarctica, which hadn't been covered with ice yet, just like it's indicated on the ancient map. Maybe one day we'll find the ruins of entire metropolises under the ice. But if an unknown ancient civilization was so advanced, there is one problem. If we disappear, the glass and plastic from our buildings and machines will be decomposing for about 15 million years. And after only a few tens of thousands of years, we would have definitely found similar traces of the previous civilization. Or not. The source of all our plastic is crude oil. Ancient people could either have failed to find it at all or considered it useless. It's also possible that they managed to predict the harmful effect of synthetic materials on the planet and just abandoned their production. In other words, such a civilization could be completely organic and therefore leave no trace. But the development level is determined not so much by technology as by the structure of society. And if the ancient sages didn't use plastics as we do, they could find alternative ways to organize their civilization.
And they did.
Despite our prejudices, ancient societies might not necessarily be primitive. This conclusion was reached by the American anthropologist David Graeber, who studied various alternative structures of ancient human societies. For example, in the early stages of the development of even our civilization, there could be tribes with a constant cyclical change of roles. Once every few months, slaves became chieftains and vice versa. In doing so, they could change not only personal belongings, but even names. After a while, everything was back to normal. Also, in his book, The Dawn of Everything, he describes the primitive tribes which consisted only of eccentric people who deliberately didn't observe any hierarchies. Perhaps similar, insane principles of social organization helped an unknown ancient civilization to find alternative ways of development and develop much faster, even on the basis of technologies that seem organic and imperceptible to us today. Simply put, the issue may not be that a highly developed ancient civilization is so invisible. It's just that it's very difficult for us to see it with our prejudices. But one day, we may rise above them and find all the missing pieces of the mosaic of an ancient unknown civilization that has only left us hints. However, ancient people might not be all that different from us in some things. The Indian epic Mahabharata describes an explosion as bright as 10,000 suns, after which a huge column of smoke and fire arose, and the birds fell dead to the ground. That sounds suspiciously like a nuclear explosion, doesn't it?
Well, it sounds suspiciously like the story in the Hindu text in India of the fire in the sky war that happened, which was like a nuclear type war, exchange of weapon fire in the Brahmanas, I think they were called. The UFOs that they referred to were Brahmanas with the sky gods. It was a war of the sky gods. And there's actually, Dr. Brandenburg has proven that there is radioactive isotopes there in India to actually back up those claims and say that, yes, something nuclear actually took place here, as it did also on Mars. There are nuclear isotopes on Mars as well that he has told about. So do I suggest that the giants, the reptilians, the Anunnaki are our creators or our teachers? No, I absolutely do not. That is not what I suggest to you at all. I'm trying to get rid of the square share screen. I'm sorry for the technical difficulties. Yeesh. Okay. Anyway. So no, I don't suggest that at all. On the contrary, I actually think that it shows their level of interference and manipulation in our teachings and our wisdom and the amount of knowledge that they're allowing us to learn throughout history for very, very long periods of time. And also leaving behind stories of devils to create fear for us, and vengeful gods, organized religion, organized education, organized medical practices, organized everything so that it's all organized and controlled. Tell the stories the way that they want to appear in them as the wise ones and the gods, right? Many cultures, many indigenous peoples and Native American Indians all have this same story that they tell about the reptilians or the snake people or the Naga, where they are forbidden to truly depict their image in any type of artwork or display, and even have been threatened, their families threatened, or their own lives threatened, if they revealed the true images and the true origins and the true stories of the reptilians or the Naga, the snake people, the serpent people. You know, they don't want that getting out. And then, you know, this goes all the way from back hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago, to present day. And I'm telling you that they are still on our planet today. They are still ruling us today. And there will be more of them coming back as the solar system comes closer to us. Now, if you remember the stories of the Sumerians talking of the Anunnaki, they said that we were treated as their slave. They said we were created as their slaves, but I don't buy that. I think we were already here. And because they seemed more advanced than us in that era, in that time of their coming back, we were submissive to them. We felt like we didn't have a leg to stand on to fight up against them. So we did what they said, and they wanted us to be slaves to mine the gold, among other things. There was a lot of trafficking of all sorts of things going on then and now. And there's also a lot of research that's been done and evidence to prove that that's a fact in today, in modern day. And that all of this evil, all of this devil-looking type people, reptilian-like people, are real. They're absolutely real. So they wanted to keep us submissive by hiding the true knowledge. And this is why we are fed the proverbial apple of everything, all the way down to the Adam and Eve story in the Garden of Eden. Because they didn't truly eat fully of the tree of knowledge if the serpent is the one teaching them. If they ate truly of the tree of fruit and knowledge, then they would know their power, and the serpent wouldn't be able to manipulate them and trick them into bending or giving up their free will. And that is the true keystone in all of this that I need for you to really hold on to and remember, regardless of what else you may learn from me from here forward. You have free will. And if you do not willingly allow someone to bend or alter or have you give up your free will, then it is yours to have dominion over, and you really can stop things from happening. The same goes with like the black-eyed children and the vampires and such. Can't come across your threshold without you inviting them in. It's a free will thing. It's a free will law. Ghosts in your house, poltergeists, demons, they cannot be around. They cannot attach to you unless you've given in to your free will power in some way, shape, or form. Same goes for diseases attaching to you. In some way, shape, or form, you have given in and bent your free will and allowed yourself to be susceptible, allowed yourself to feel like you don't have a leg to stand on. You have no power. I'm here to tell you, you do have power. I want to teach it to you and have you take it back for a whole host of reasons, for a whole host of them. Because even if there would be no binary star and no cataclysms and no pole shift or reptilians or vampires or elite that rule us and treat us like puppets, You could take control of your own 6 degrees and the things in your own little world that could make you happier, bring you more joy, bring you more health, bring you more fulfillment in all ways. All ways. I promise you. Yeah, you can't change other people's free will. But if their free will and your free will aren't in perfect harmony together, then you don't need to be together. It's that simple. That was like a drop the mic moment. Did you see my lights flash? That was power. I got the power. See, it just did it again. Ah, I love it. All right. So anyway, I'm gonna wrap it up. Call this the end of part 2. Thanks for watching. Please like, please share, please subscribe, all those good things. I love doing this. I love talking to you. I love all of the comments I'm getting lately. Please talk to me. All right. Until next time, be well and be blessed in love and light. Peace.